We are now convening the June 18th Public Infrastructure and Utilities Committee. Madam Clerk, would you please call roll?
Alderwoman Schweitzer,
Present.
Alderwoman Boyd,
Present.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, Alderman Devoti,
Present.
Chair Browning,
Present.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. We have a quorum.
With that, we will look at the minutes. If everyone's had a chance to take a look at the minutes, I will accept a motion to approve the minutes from Wednesday, June 11th.
So moved. I move. Second.
Moved by the Alderwoman from the 1st, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 13th. Madam Clerk, please call roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer,
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, Alderman Devoti.
Aye.
Chair Browning,
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. We have 4 aye votes.
With that, we have approved the minutes, and we will move into item number 4, which is board bills for review. We'll start with item number 1, and that is board bill number 32. Alderman Devoti, you are recognized.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, this particular, or Board Bill 32, addresses the installation of a speed bump on one block of Edwards. Many of you might know Edwards is a major north-south thoroughfare on the hill. However, this particular block of Edwards is actually north of Interstate 44, which dissects the neighborhood. And this area of Edwards has a fair amount of commercial traffic. So we've got an issue with a bunch of trucks and such moving through. Limited residents. There is one business actually in this stretch. We went through the petition process, and I think we had 100% participation in the request. So the request here is that for favorable review of Board Bill 32.
Thank you for that. We'll go through the committee to see if anyone has any questions, starting with Alderwoman Boyd.
Alderman Devoti, is this in your ward?
It is. Yes, ma'am.
I have no questions.
I appreciate that. That was a nice softball.
Alderwoman Schweitzer.
No questions.
I too do not have any questions. You know, I know that that neighborhood was bisected by the highway at one point, and the neighborhood fought very hard just to have some access through the highway, and it was a testament to the strength of that neighborhood to fight for themselves, even though something terrible was happening. They made the best of it, and so understand the need to slow traffic as people go along the street, and appreciate you being responsive to joint concerns. With that, I will accept a motion, or well, with that, Alderman, you are recognized to close.
I simply ask for favorable consideration of Board Bill 32 for the purpose of installing a speed hump on this particular block.
With that, I'll accept a motion for a due pass recommendation for Board Bill number 32.
So moved.
Second.
Previous roll.
Moved by the Alderwoman from the 1st. Seconded by the Alderwoman from the 13th. Call for previous roll from the Alderwoman from the 1st. Hearing no objection. Congratulations. Moving now to item number 2, Board Bill for Review number 34. Alderwoman Keys, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board. Could I please have our wonderful secretary to read the summary?
Board Bill number 34, introduced by Alderwoman Laura Keys, The bill directs the Director of Streets to install speed humps pursuant to Ordinance Number 70333, as amended by Ordinance Number 71394, to calm the flow of traffic on the 3600, 3700, 3800, 3900, 4000, 4100, 4200, 4300, 4400, 4500, 4600, 4700, and 4800 blocks of Lee.
So we have had an amendment to that. The 4700 block, as well as the 48th, do not belong to the elevated 11th Ward. So our clerk has made a correction to that, but my email has been out for the last few days, so I was not able to respond and give approval. So this speed hump bill is very vital. So Lee Avenue is a very wide street, and it lends itself to that need to just really drive fast down that street. And then there's some sections where donuts seem to appear, and people are having just a really, really good time. And we'd like to slow that down. I'm coming to find out that many of the people living in the area have been asking for this in the past administration prior to me coming on board. So this has been an outcry of the community for a very long time. So that is pretty much the size of it, the 36 through the 4600 block of Lee Avenue.
Thank you, Alderwoman. We'll go to the committee to see if anyone has any questions. Alderwoman Boyd?
So, Alderwoman Keys, so what blocks is it exactly now?
The 3600 through the 4600 blocks of Lee Avenue. So it's a
it's
10-block
30
stretch.
So it's the 36 to the 46.
Correct.
Okay, I had got confused. That's why I was asking. I
Yes,
was like,
ma'am.
wait. So does the Lee bus still go down that street?
You know, I'm not really sure. I think it might, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, because I lived at 4245 Lee.
Yeah, for years it did. I used to catch that bus to school.
Yeah, I caught the
Yeah.
the Lee bus. So that's why I was wondering
Yeah.
that it's still
And they
go down.
rerouted many of the routes, and they reduced services to many of those routes as well. You know, if it becomes something that's problematic, we can always go back and
No,
try to
I
correct
don't
for it,
think
but I
it
just
would be
don't know. Mhm.
I don't think it would be problematic. I was just wondering, and so I did ride through there and saw it was a lot of damage from the tornado over
Yes.
there. But that street is real wide, so I had no objections. I was just kind of confused when you said that something wasn't in your ward. That's when
Oh,
I
the
got
47 and the 48 is not. That's where we cross over the other side of Shreve going past Marcus. So the west side of Marcus becomes the 12th ward, and the east side of Marcus is the elevated 11th.
Okay,
Mhm.
all right. I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderwoman Schweitzer?
Thanks. Are you planning on having one on every one of those blocks?
At least one, if not, and some of those blocks are longer than the others. A few of those blocks have a very long stretch before you hit the next block, and then some of them are, you know, very short. So the appropriate number per the length of the city block.
You're just gonna let the streets department make that decision?
Yes, absolutely. That, you know, they're better suited to
That's great.
address that.
I have the amendment in front of us that you
Correct.
want, so I'm just gonna make the motion now.
Please,
Get it,
thank
yeah.
you.
So I move that we adopt amendment number 1 to Board Bill 34.
Second.
Previous roll?
Motion made by the Alderman from the 1st, seconded by the Alderman from the 5th. A call for previous roll from the Alderman from the 1st. Hearing no objection, the amendment has been adopted.
Thank you.
And that's all my questions. Thank you, Alderman.
Alderman Devoti?
No questions.
I just have one question. You had stated that you would like as many speed humps are necessary to be installed. The bill does currently state on the first page, line 9, 1 speed hump shall be installed in each of the following blocks. Would you like to, or would you accept a friendly amendment to change that just to speed hump parentheses S as needed?
Absolutely. Thank
Okay,
you.
so I'd like to make a motion that we amend Board Bill number 34 as amended to, on line 9 of page 1, to replace one speed hump with speed hump parentheses S and parentheses shall be installed on each of the following blocks of Lee Avenue.
So moved.
Second.
All right.
Previous row.
Moved by the Alderwoman from the 13th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 1st. Call for previous roll. Hearing no objection, the board bill has now been amended. I don't have any other questions. Alderwoman, you are recognized to close.
Well, thank you all so much for hearing this particular board bill. I would ask for your favorable consideration and do pass recommendation on the board bill. Thank you.
At this time, I'll accept a motion for a do pass recommendation on board bill number 34 as amended.
So moved.
Second. Previous
Moved
roll.
by the
Previous
Alderman
row.
from the 5th, seconded by the Alderman from the 1st. Previous roll called by the Alderman from the 1st and the 13th. And hearing no objection,
Like a well-oiled machine. Thank you.
congratulations, Alderwoman. With that, I'm going to hand the chairmanship over to my vice chair as I prepare to do board bill number 38.
Thank you, Chairman Browning. You are now recognized on board bill number 38.
Thank you. So board bill number 38 is something we see every year. It is the allocation of the St. Louis Works money. For those who are unaware, we get St. Louis Works every year. It's from a tax on the utility companies, and it gets distributed evenly throughout the wards for us to use on repaving our streets and repairing our sidewalks. The money is a little bit less this year, just because of the money that was collected, but we are going to pass this so that we can get that money out there into repairing our streets and sidewalks. We know there's a lot of work to do, and so appreciate everyone's patience as we got this ready. And I do have our street commissioner, Ken Flake, here to answer any questions if anyone has any. And Mr. Flake, would you like to say anything?
Welcome. Just make sure to say your full name and position for the record.
Good afternoon. It's Kent Flake, Commissioner Streets. And I really don't have a whole lot to add. This has been ongoing board bill. I'm not even for sure how long. I think we're pushing 25 plus years. Nothing much in it has changed. Dollar amount varies from year to year. Actually, this year I think is actually up 400,000 from last year, but there's a lot of salaries and other things in here that kind of complicate on whether on the amount aldermen get. It was up a little bit, but other than that, if you're ready, I can speak more about the budget if anybody needs to know about the budget. Other than that, it is essentially the same thing as every year that I can recall.
Thank you. I'll go through the members of the committee for questions. Alderwoman Boyd.
Good afternoon, Mr. Flake. How are you this afternoon?
I'm doing much better than I'm in this area. It feels great in here.
You probably do. I was called, I wanted to ask about the related engineer adjustments. And so is that, well, are we talking about the pay for the engineers or the jobs itself?
You kind of threw me off there. This is a paragraph.
No, that's okay. See where it says beautification, tree planting, resurfacing? and then related engineering adjustments. And so with this pricing, is it incorporated with the increasing? Because I know it's probably been an increase. Am I correct?
So what that verbiage is in this board bill is to state essentially that St. Louis Works money can be used for most anything in the right of way. So realistically, what that means is that if Board of Public Service, if you chose to put money towards the Board of Public Service job that needed to be engineered, it can be engineered. And that St. Louis Works money could be used for that if that's what you chose to use.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all I have. I didn't mean to throw you off.
It's just, I've never heard that question in doing this for 15 years.
Thank you. No more questions.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Alderman Devoti. Thank you. In terms of questions, we went over this together not too long ago now. And so we got to talk about some of the things that are highlighted, but just because there are things highlighted in the bill, in the budget, do you mind going over those specific places and why they're noted differently than other sections of the bill?
Absolutely. So pretty much everything in here is boilerplate, except for the 4 areas highlighted. You see one section in 510 under major projects. That is our estimation of how much St. Louis Works will be used for 50/50 sidewalk repair. You see 2 in 511, both a facility ground supplies and a facility and ground services. That is to maintain and to keep up to date as best as possible any of the aldermanic funded security cameras that would happen to be in like parks and stuff like that. In 514, this one's pretty easy because the title of the account says exactly what it is. It's asphalt material and supplies. That is for any paving that any alder person would choose to do with their St. Louis Works money. And this is kind of, at this point, just filler. There are transfers usually made after our capital meetings or as time goes on, because if we had a bunch of alders that decided to put all their money into 50/50 and not asphalt, then that transfer would be made from the 514 asphalt account to the 50/50 sidewalk account. So it's mostly set up, and these are actually pretty good generalizations of how they have been. But we do sometimes, as needed, need to transfer money from the asphalt to the sidewalk or sidewalk to the asphalt.
In terms of this budget last year, you said it's $400,000 more than last year. For last year's budget, how much is remaining that hasn't been spent?
I did not bring that with me, but it's quite a bit.
Okay, and I know in my ward, I think I put all of it to paving the roads that still need to get done. So those are and probably that's true in other wards too.
Most all of our paving, other than your ward and Ward 8, was completed last year. So that is, on those, I actually have a balance sheet that the alders are given in their capital meeting that states what their balance is.
So it's mostly mine and Ward 8 that still needs to get paid out?
I would assume so without having that in front of me.
Okay.
I'm not positive, but I would.
A lot of it though is, it's going to employees and things that's getting paid, that's leaving so it's mostly the capital expenses that if there's any money remaining, it's not money for employees or anything unless people weren't hired or there's vacant positions.
That's correct.
Okay. So one of the things that we put in the ordinance for the utility tracking and the utility coordination is having that, July 1st list of streets that are coming up to get paved. I can name the ones in my ward that should be on the list, and I'm sure every alderman can do the same, but is that a list that you're planning on having out by July 1st?
17th? It'll be very close.
Okay. I have total faith in you. Nothing like a deadline, right?
Tornado is slowing us down just a smidge, but I am finally getting caught up on email. And that is what most alders are currently waiting for. After a capital meeting, I have probably about 12 out of 14 that had new list for me in order to get prices on, and I have not touched one of those yet.
Yeah.
I'm hoping here in the next few days that I can start getting those out to the alders as needed, and they can finally make their decisions from the meetings we had 6 weeks ago.
Sure. Yeah, I think there's probably some roads that we know are going to get paved in the next 2 years, like anything from ARPA. That's obviously many arterial get repaved, and so I think that's important to, put it out there for which ones are going to get done. I think those are all of my questions. I know I put all of my money in St. Louis Works to sidewalks this year because I have so much still waiting to get done. Anything else that you think I should have asked that we should have talked about?
I think that's it. I think that's realistically it. It's, like I said, I think we need to start bumping this up earlier in the season. So we have this in February, March, and
Especially if it's mostly the same, So I guess, didn't it used to come through in like December or January, right?
the board bill typically was December, and then we did our budget meetings with all the alders, I believe in February, early March. And that's just, I'm not entirely sure why it has came to be that way. But
Just because of, I wonder if it's because of elections. Because if we're not, if you have a year where you have a new election and a ward capital meeting place in February, but someone new comes in April, I can see why that would be somewhat problematic if they're going to change things. But at the same time, the business of getting all this stuff done is so much more important than that. So I would certainly advocate for earlier meetings. I was told that Alderwoman Clark Hubbard has joined. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, do you have any questions on Board Bill 38?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, well, I'm sure we'll talk more. Thank you for always responding to me and for being so easy to work with. Alderman Chairman Browning, you are recognized, unless we have any public comment. Okay. Alderman Chairman Browning, you are recognized to close.
Thank you. I just want to note, because it was mentioned that Commissioner Flake has been instrumental in getting debris cleared after the tornado on May 16th. Really, the streets department has stepped up in a huge way. They had the equipment and the people available to be able to go out and pick up some of these trees that were, bigger than any resident could move. And they've been absolutely key to getting things back to normal as much as possible after that devastating tornado. So a huge thanks goes out to them and the work they've been doing. I also want to note that in the future, we hope to not have to continue to pass this St. Louis Works bill because the money always goes to the street department anyway. So it's really quite a formality where we, and almost a delay where we have to do this process similar to how we have to, do board bills for speed humps and other things. It just adds time to what is already a fairly ingrained process. So the idea would be to get that over to them so that we could start planning earlier, because we're about halfway through the paving season. And that just doesn't do our residents any favors to wait to do this. And your point about the elections is probably why it's been done that way in the past. But as we try to get alders more out of the process of deciding which roads get paved and what street work gets done, I think we'll see improvements on all of this, because the balkanization of our city streets has not served anyone well. And with that, I close.
Thank you, Alderman Browning. With that, I will entertain a motion for a due pass recommendation of Board Bill 38.
So move.
Second.
Any call for previous roll?
Can't do previous roll.
Oh, well, thank you. Action to previous rolls been made. It's been moved by the Alderman from the 5th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 10th. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderwoman Schweitzer,
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard,
Aye.
Alderman Devoti,
Aye.
Chair Browning.
Aye.
We have 5 aye votes.
With that, we have passed Board Bill number 38 with a due pass recommendation. Congratulations, Alderman Browning. Thank you, Commissioner Flake, for being here. I'll pass chairmanship back over to you.
Thank you. And I do apologize. We forgot to ask if there were public comment on the previous speed hump bills, but I'm guessing we did not have any. And that was an oversight of mine, though, and I do apologize. Moving on, we are now, I've lost my agenda. Moving on, we are now moving on to the next item, which is resolutions for review. I see that we have none. There are no committee discussions either. Madam Clerk, do we have any written testimony?
We have none.
Does any member of the committee have an announcement? Hearing none. All members were present, so there are no need to excuse members. And at this point, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for being here.